Welcome to the Old Man Orange podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And today we're going to do something fun that we've always wanted to do for a long, long time. Talk about a couple movies that we really fucking love.
So basically, kind of like the way if you listen to the show, usually it's just us kind of coming in and talking about whatever. Maybe we saw this movie, maybe we saw that movie, and then just kind of insert a dick joke here or there. But we're actually probably going to do kind of like what we used to do, kind of like a retrospect. So we might even title this as something else other than just another episode. But like, because this is going to be a little different. We're just kind of trying to break down a particular director, like his work and all that. And we're talking about Martin McDonagh. Did you pronounce his name?
Martin McDonagh, the guy who did the fucking two awesome movies, In Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. And this is kind of thing, too. The Seven Psychopaths, we always look, it's like, that was our lost episode. We bring it up, like, multiple times. We technically did talk about Seven Psychopaths in depth on, like, our 2012, whatever, top movies of the year. Hell, I think that was our number one movie of the year for 2012. It was,
yeah.
For both of our lists, or whatever the hell we did that time. But, I still always feel like you look back whenever you lose an episode or if you lose a song or anything you've ever lost in your life, like, digital-wise or, that, you always go, man, that was a fucking good episode. If that episode was just there, that could have been our best one ever. Who knows? It probably wasn't even that good. Probably would have had crappy audio and anything. We recorded it while we were in a fucking car driving home at, like, midnight.
Yeah, because the thing is we drove all the way to Modesto to see it. Because it was like,
it's 2.5 hours from, or for anybody who's wondering, where Modesto is in retrospect to us.
We were driving. It was like one of those things like, oh, the guy who did In Bruges. Well, it's not, that movie's not coming here, so fuck it. Let's drive all the way to Modesto to see this movie. It won't be a repeat of Legend of Chung-Li. I know that. So we drive all the way there, and we come out of the movie like, that movie was awesome. Yeah. Let's just record the podcast on the way home. And I talked a little bit about like Cloud Atlas because I just saw that.
Oh, and then we came out right around the same time too.
Then I think we were talking about because the Evil Dead remake was about to come out, so we were talking about a little bit about that. But then we were primarily though in detail talking about Seven Psychopaths and how awesome it was. And then
the phone recorded like 20 minutes, if that even, of the conversation, and then just shut off and said, what, you want me to record longer? Fuck.
Yeah, and then we just kind of like, we were just both quiet. I'm the one driving, just gripping the steering wheel just so sternly, just fuck, because it was like, all that talking, not gonna happen now. It was like when we were first, we're doing this one in person because I'm in town, but it was like when we first discovered, like, oh, we can do this on Skype. We're just like, 40 minutes of that conversation, not there,
Yeah, Skype would fuck us over a bunch, or Skype but probably not technically Skype. We're always blaming it on Skype like it's their fucking fault, but it's probably that third-party recorder that's always pissing us off. Mm-hmm. But whatever. Seven Psychopaths, In Bruges, and then we're also going to talk about Six Shooter, which is his first, like, short little movie. Mm-hmm. But before that, he did a bunch of plays. They were all kind of in about the same vein, sort of, as Seven Psychopaths and In Bruges, where it's that sort of dark comedy, but it's also like a full-on drama all at the same time, which is kind of a neat one. I know Seven Psychopaths is a little bit different than that. It's almost like more dark comedy, less, being a huge drama, but...
Well, it's kind of like you look at... I don't know about any of his plays. I know that Seven Psychopaths was a play, never got made. And he's like, this would be better as a movie. And he had, I think, like 6 or 7 plays he did. And I like to see some of these plays, or like see them just made into movies, or just even read the plays.
Yeah, put them into movies, put them into a format that regular folk can see.
Or I just even like to read the script of it, because I like to know other stories this guy's told. Now he's doing his 3rd movie now. I don't really remember what it's called. I want to say it's in production. But he's doing one called, I'm looking at the thing right here, it doesn't say. But I looked on IMDb, he has a 3rd movie in the works. So,
as well as, I feel like, I guess it seems like the movies kind of come out like far apart from each other. Maybe they're not really as far as we think. I mean, I think it was, In Bruges was 2008?
Yeah.
And then Seven Psychopaths was 2012. So by that standard, he comes out with a movie every 4 years. It's 2016. Hopefully it'll be coming out real soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this, like, if you listen to the podcast, In Bruges is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's one of the best ones. Like, there's just a magic feeling about that movie. It's something way different. And he's like, these two movies, I don't think enough people have seen them either, too. They're kind of like hidden gem movies. I'm surprised at the amount of people that have seen them. But at the same time, I love introducing this movie to somebody. Be like, dude, you've got to fucking check In Bruges out. It's hilarious, but it's also sad and kind of dark at the same time.
Well, that's the thing about, like, Six Shooter, because I saw Six Shooter was on his IMDb, and before we did this, you're like, want to watch Six Shooter. I'm like, I never seen it, sure. And I just assumed it was going to be kind of like cause I knew that he wrote plays, but I assumed for whatever reason, not even doing any real research before this, I just assumed Six Shooter was just something he did probably in college or something, and it was probably like a 5-10 minute movie. Like, oh, this is like a 20-25 minute movie, and it stars Brendan Gleeson.
Which, it's worth sometimes checking out, like, those directors, like, kind of like those short films or whatever. It's technically not like, people always go, it's like, oh, it's mostly their first one. They probably did 100, like, real short ones that were crappy and don't see the light of day. But there's some real neat stuff you find in them. Like, have you ever seen James Cameron's, like, original, like, short that's, like, 20 minutes or so long?
No, I haven't.
It's fucking badass. It's almost like, it's like this kind of pre-Terminator Alien-like thing where, it's all sci-fi and they're battling a giant robot in it and everything. And you could see where Terminator kind of comes from in there. But it's pretty badass. Or, you got George Lucas's original version of THX.
Yeah, you see a lot of that. Like, this one right here, like, I'll say Six Shooter, like, he won an Academy Award for Best Short Film. And that one right there is just like, I can see a lot. Like, it's probably like, it's darker than probably either In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths. Probably darker than two of those, but it still is just like
same humor.
So fucked up and just so funny in certain parts. Like, it's like for a second, if you've seen In Bruges, you almost think, oh my god, is this a prequel? And you realize, no, it's not. But you can kind of see like kind of where he got inspiration or kind of early like writing for that. And like Brendan Gleeson's wife just died. He goes in and he's sitting there, and the doctor says to him something to the lines of like, well, I have to go because he said, you can stay here with your wife, but I have to go because a boy just shot his mom's head off. So it's like, oh my god, is she alive? No, she got her head shot off. So it's just like things like that. And like, even though it's sad, he's talking like, it's very genuine. It seems very real. He's talking to the corpse of his wife. Like, well done. I miss you. Here, I brought a picture of David. And he puts like a picture of a rabbit. I don't know why. That's funny to me. Just like, naming a rabbit of all things, like not Mr. Fluffy or something like that. Just naming it David. Just like,
is that weird to you to have like animals have like what they call people names?
It's not maybe super weird. It just seems like David is seriously one of the last names I'd expect for a rabbit. I think it's not that I'm against it or anything. It just seems unexpected to me, So just like,
it's just British,
I'm expecting him to put out like a picture of his son or something like that. But just like, here's a picture of David. There's a picture of a little white rabbit.
Well, then that movie like Trans, it goes into like they're on this train, and that's pretty much where like 90% of this little short film takes place. It's just him on this train talking to like this real kind of like weird Irish kid who's just speaks his mind, doesn't give a fuck like what's going on. There's two people over there crying over something or another, and he just has to figure out what it is, but he's gonna be a dick about it too.
Why are you being so mopey? Just beating and berating these people. Then you find out that their son just died.
There's a lot of death in this movie.
There is a lot of death in this movie, and he finds out that their son just died, and they're just he just keeps on berating, like, oh, is that a picture of your, like, later he sees the wife is looking at a picture of this baby. She's like, is that a picture of your dead son? Did you beat him against something? And he says, like, earlier at some point he's talking to Brendan Gleeson, saying, like, I'm surprised parents don't kill the kids more often. I mean, if I had a kid, I'd probably kill it. I'm just saying,
I mean, look at how I turned out. I should have been killed.
And he'd be talking mid-sentence, like, it's not like, oh, sheep! Just sheep.
With the sheep outside. The one thing I like about that short is that one is, like, by far the darkest of them all, but, like, the comedy is also, like, turned up to the max. Like, it's one of those ones, like, you could show that to some people, and they'd be like, this is fucking horrible. What is this garbage, And then other people be like, dude, this is the funniest thing ever. And some people might watch it and go, I didn't see anything funny in that movie whatsoever. It just seems sad and dark and evil.
Like, because that guy, it's like, even though you don't really like the Irish guy, everybody's in it is Irish just about, but you don't like the young guy all that much, but he is the source of, like, nearly all the humor in it, and you kind of, like, accept him as the movie goes on,
No, well, you just say, like, it's that weird thing where it's like, yeah, he's kind of a dick, kind of a douche, but he's funny and charming all at the same time. It's a weird combo. He's wearing this, like, flamboyant, like, green undershirt then he's got like a brown jacket over, so he looks as Irish as could be. He throw a leprechaun hat on him and everything. Like, that's almost how he's dressed.
He almost to me came across as like, we'll get where I figure we just do it chronologically, but he almost reminds me of Billy, Sam Rockwell's character from Seven Psychopaths, if he was Irish.
Yeah, he's kind of like a prototype to that character. Which you could even say the same thing of like Ray, Colin Farrell's character, in Bruges, he seems like kind of like a proto of that too, sort of.
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of like the dip kid who just says whatever he wants, you know. It's almost like he never had like a proper like somebody telling him how to do things like this. He almost still acts like 10 years old though he's like 25.
It's like, and he just seems kind of like, after he finds out that like they're dead, like the kid's dead over there, he's still like, did you drop the kid? What happened to the kid? You know, just keeps on pushing, and eventually drives this poor mom to jump, or like, well, who used to be a mom, to jump out the side of the train. And he's like, oh, how about that then? He's like not even like fazed by it. Just like the cops are asking questions, and he says like, there's like a picture of the baby. He says like, can I have this? He's like, why? To put into your like spank bank of dead babies that look like, and he says some gay like, you think of a gay
book of some sort.
A gay, like it puts in like, it says the name of like who's someone like a gay Irish. I'm assuming like a gay Irish or a gay British celebrity or something. It says he looks like a baby. I mean, I know he's gay, so he can't have babies, but he looks like him. If he was a baby, if he had a baby, you know. I know I'm doing a British voice for an Irish character, but it's just the easy to go to.
And he even gets to the point where he's just kind of like, so, you know, I was talking about some things about the kid, you know, the mom and how she was raising the kid. You don't think that had put it over the edge a little bit? And he's like, no. I'll think that, you know, it's just one of those things that just happened. Just life takes its way.
Yeah. He's like, you don't think that, you know, you think it was maybe because the kid died? Like, maybe.
Just like. And then I just like, cause like once the train finally takes off, he's just sitting there's like waving like as like a fucking 10-year-old boy waving to like passing police officers.
And the cops put something together like, oh wait a minute. I mean that's where, and then like the husband just has a full on mental breakdown and just stops, which you feel so horrible for the husband. Exactly. And then what ends up happening is they come to another stop, and then like Brendan Gleeson's like, well, this is my stop. You have a good life. Hope everything turns out good for you. Brendan Gleeson then it triggers in his head like, wait a minute, because he remembers the doctor talking about a young guy who shot his mom's head off, and then he turns around. The guy has 2 revolvers pointing at the cops that are all waiting there. He's shooting at them. It's kind of like, you know, like, oh, okay, here's kind of the very in Bruges Tarantino-esque
shootout.
Yeah, and just getting kind of shot up brutally, going down. He's like, I missed him. That was bad. And just, you know, dies. He had like 2 revolvers. Brendan Gleeson takes one. We then cut back to Brendan Gleeson's house. This is probably the hardest part of the movie right here.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those ones, too, because I remember the whole time watching this movie, it was like for 20 minutes or whatever, you're like, it's called 6-shooter. Where the hell is a 6-shooter in this movie? Mm-hmm. And then that part's like, oh, there we go. And at this point, like, Brendan Gleeson's he's seen a lot of death in the last, like, 24 hours, you know, and he's holding this boy kind of like, he didn't have to go this way, like, you know, lady jumped out the train, my wife died this morning, like, all this bad stuff's happened, and then he takes the gun, and you see him just kind of, like, sticks it in his pocket, and then it cuts to him sitting in his house, just, like, at the edge of a table, like, dark and alone, looking at the gun. He opens the gun up, you got 2 bullets left. That's all you're gonna need.
And then he puts down, there's a picture of Jesus, he puts down the picture of Jesus, and he's about to put the gun to his head. Then you hear like a noise in the other room. He gets up. He's
looking at the picture of his wife too. He's like, I'm gonna join you, honey. Don't worry, I'm coming there.
And then he hears a noise, walks out of the room, comes back with David, puts a gun to David's head, blows.
Well, you almost think first though, like when he has David before that even happens.
Oh, it's gonna save him.
Yeah, you almost go like, oh, well maybe it's the animal. It'll be like, no, I gotta live for David. David's who I gotta live for. And then it's like even darker. It's like, David will go together. He blows his fucking head off. You're like, oh my god.
And then he puts the gun to his head, but the thing like short fuses or something, or
and he drops it.
Yeah. Then like, and then he's just like sitting there. He's like, what a fucking day. And it cuts to credits, no music.
Classic, no music.
And it's so sad because he kills his bunny, but he's now alone. He doesn't have his wife, and he doesn't have his rabbit. So
yeah, and now it's almost like there's too much time to think between going to the store and grabbing another bullet and coming back.
Yeah.
But like, will he do it? Will he not now?
I mean, you know, I think in all honesty, as sad as that is, it's almost kind of like less sad. I mean, it sucks that the rabbit died because I'm an animal person. But
I mean, yeah, I would have went for the version where it's like, I gotta live with David. Somebody's gonna take care of David.
Yeah,
that would have been my ending to it.
But the ending doesn't kill it for me. It kills a rabbit, but it doesn't kill it for me. And like,
the rabbit audience is like, well, fuck that one. Oh, hey, with the rabbit store.
Wallaby's like, fuck this movie! Wallaby's like, I found it rather fitting, really.
Always felt that's the way I'd go.
In the arms of someone that loved me with the gun to the side of my head.
Seems like I'm fitting in for a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, these not good ending for anything. Oh, rabbits are supposed to have the guns in their hands, not the other way around.
Boycott this film! Boycott it, I say!
But no, it's one of those, because sometimes there's certain dark, it sounds weird, for somebody who likes a lot of dark humor and all that stuff, there's certain dark endings that I just feel like they don't work. Perfect example is the original version of Clerks.
Yeah.
That, I think, is one, you watch this, like, happy-go-lucky comedy film where it's just like, you know, hey, you know, it's like, yeah, work kind of sucks, but you got your best friend here, even though it's kind of annoying, you know, it's like, you're still having a good old time, and then it's that thing where it's just like, yeah, well, shit fucking happens. Sometimes a guy just comes in to take your money and shoot you, and that's just how life goes. Mm-hmm. Cut the credits. You just hear some fucking cash register going. That's it. It's just so weird. And I feel that's the only way that ending kind of makes sense. It's supposed to be like one of those, like, that's just reality. You know, you're having a good time with your friend. You're playing hockey. You're going to funerals.
And it turns out funny in some weird way.
But at the end of the day, some fucking dick comes in to steal $20 from you and kills you.
Like, I don't think it works for Clerks. I mean, I think I've seen other endings where that could work, depending on the context and the rest of the movie. And, you know, like, I think, because, you know, as depressing as that ending is, I think it still works. I would have preferred a different one, but it doesn't ruin it.
Are you talking about Clerks or are you talking about Six Shooter?
Six Shooter.
No, yeah, Six Shooter, it's one of those that works for that film. Like, it's like, okay, I get it. Like, you know, and it's kind of different, too. Because it's sort of like you expect it to be something. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, he's going to use the rabbit as kind of like, hey, this is what I got to live for. But it's like, no, we're going to go together. But then, like, it fucks up. And then he's just like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. And then he kind of goes on to In Bruges from there. I mean, I'm sure maybe I think he did, like, maybe another play between here and there, possibly. But then eventually his next movie, which is what we're focusing on, he goes to In Bruges. And that was one of those movies that I heard it was pretty good. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And then I saw it for like, you know, for like $5 at Blockbuster Used. I'm like, all right, you know, here we go. And I just picked it up, watched it when I got home. I'm just like, you know, because it opens up just like, that's when I went and like washed the blood and the residue off my hands in a Burger King. He gives us a phone call. Go to In Bruges, you dumb fucks. You dumb fucks, go to Bruges. What the fuck Bruges was. And just like sad piano shots of like buildings. Yeah. Like what are we watching? He's like, Bruges is a shithole. It is not a fucking shithole. They're just walking. And then just like from there, it's just like, I wasn't sure what I was watching. Was I watching like a sad, depressing movie or was I watching a comedy? And then like it goes to the part where they go up, because that's the thing with that movie. It's like, okay, I'm guessing it's gonna be kind of funny. I don't really know what's going on here. And then like that's when like the fat American tourists come by. They're like, it's supposed to be a good view. It's just like I can see. Oh, actually, first off, Brendan Gleeson's like, I can see it from down here. Why the fuck do I want to go up there? It's just like. Just like the small things like that.
It's the little comedy in there, and so like fucking Colin Farrell's like, you know what, I'm not gonna go up there. He's like, oh, I'm gonna stay down here. I'll fucking hate Bruges. And then next thing you know, there's just these 3 fat Americans that show up, and they're like, hey, have you been up to the tower? He's like, no, I'm in the tower. Oh, I hear it's the #1 place to be. No, you don't want to go there. It's fucking shite. He's like, yeah, but on my map here, it says it'll be fucking great here. So he's like, yeah, but you know, there's little stairs and stuff. You won't be able to make. What's that supposed to fucking mean? Look at you guys, bunch of fucking elephants.
He says, you motherfuckers chasing him, and just like tries to kind of keep away. And he's just like barely keeping away from him, just like running.
Just like running around. And
then
I love this, like Brendan Gleeson comes down the stairs.
It's Ray.
And then he walks up to him and stuff, and they're all like, what's going on? He's like, where were you? They're like, they're trying to go up on there. He's like, oh, no, you don't want to go up there.
It's like, screw you, motherfucker! And he's like, Americans. Which, like, you know, Colin Farrell is Ray in that, and Brendan Gleeson, his name was Ken. That's what Ken. Yeah. Like, Colin Farrell, you can kind of see, like, he is, like, I'll say this, like, Colin Farrell, I never disliked him, but he was never really, like, a main seller for the movie, but he is, like, the best part of this whole movie.
Oh, yeah, like, this movie to me is, like, I seen Colin Farrell in things before this movie, and, like, you know, I enjoyed him, and I like Colin Farrell. But this movie makes me go like, no, I fucking love Colin Farrell. Mm-hmm. Like, it really puts him up in like one of my top actor lists.
Like this right here is kind of like something that maybe like brought me around him. Like, okay, yeah, I know he's you know he can do good in things like SWAT or
Alexander.
Yeah, you can do good in that kind of stuff, whatever. But then like you see this, like, oh my god, no, this guy's awesome. After watching this movie, this is like this movie alone kind of made me really like Colin Farrell a lot.
Well, the other thing that's kind of cool about this movie too is like Bruges was a town that like you've heard of it, but I didn't know anything about Bruges. And the kind of neat thing is in the movie, it's almost like you get to take like a tour through Bruges in a sense too. Because that's what they're sort of doing. They're kind of there, they're seeing the sights. They've been kind of set up in this hotel, and you don't really know exactly why they're there first. You kind of assume that they're running away from a crime. And they're just kind of hiding out in Bruges. So in that, they're going to see statues, they're going to see churches, they're going to see all this stuff. And it's got this cool, like, ancient architect. I think Bruges, like, the main part of that city was built in the 1400s. So it's got a great, like, set piece to look at. And pretty much everything was shot there anyways. There's just a handful of scenes that were shot on stage, I think, at Fox or wherever. Like, is that movie a 20th Century Fox-like film?
I think it's Focus.
Isn't that Fox?
Focus might be owned by Fox, but Focus Features is another company.
I thought that was, like, they're, like, independent, because everybody has their own.
There's Fox Searchlight.
No, Fox Searchlight's what I'm thinking. Never mind. Focus is a different one. You're right.
Which I think Focus might be owned by Paramount. Maybe I'm wrong there. But, well, I'll say a lot of the things is maybe it's just kind of like I'm a simpleton. Maybe that's all it is, because it's like a lot of things they say, I think it's like, it's not the things they say are super funny. It's a combination of just like how blunt they are, the Irish accents, and then on top of that, the whole just how like just the way they deliver the line almost, because like it's almost kind of like the line where it's not even all that clever of a line. It's just the way how he delivers it and the way how blunt he is about it. He says like. Come on, let's go up there. He's just like, no, Bruges doesn't impress me. I don't like it. I don't like Bruges. She's like, why not? She's like, look, if I was born on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me. But I wasn't, so it doesn't.
I'm not retarded, so it's
yeah, so it's like...
Well, I just like, because later on, too, when they got Ralph Fiennes, who's like their boss, calls up, and he's like, he's cold and knocking the trip there. He's like, oh, well, he's kind of there. He's kind of not really saying, what you fucking mean it's not his thing? Well, I mean, like, maybe just kind of a kid being there. It's a fucking fairy tale land. What is there not to fucking like about? Did he see the swans? Oh, yeah, we saw the swans. Did he like the fucking swans? He's like, well, yeah. What I meant to say was that, at first he was kind of confused, but then he's like, well, that's fucking right, because Bruges is the best place ever. When I was a boy, I went there, and it was the most magical place I ever went. I'm going to visit it someday again.
He says, I'd like to see Bruges before I die.
But I just love, like, what do you mean? It's like somebody call up and be like, did he like Disneyland? No, not really. What do you fucking not talk about Disney?
It's just like, how could all that magical fairy tale shit not be anybody's cup of tea? And he says, he looks at me, he says, like, Ken, did I die? Because I feel like he's like speaking more of his own opinion of how he feels. Because Ken loves Bruges. He's almost saying how he feels. He says, like, oh, well, I feel like I've died and gone into a dream. He says, oh, that's nice. I'm glad I could do that for him.
And because you don't even see Ralph Fiennes till like the third act, but there's a part too, like it comes a little bit before that, but he sends like a telegram, or not fucking a letter, but a letter, and it just says like,
it's just like a phone call, but written down word for word.
Yeah, and it's just like fuck. He's like, oh boy, he sure swears a lot, doesn't he? And then the lady comes up, she's like, what did she say? She's like, it's like and like, P.S. I'm the owner, not the fucking like,
not the receptionist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like she like the owner of the hotel they're staying at is this very nice lady who she's pregnant, but she still has like, even though she's really nice, she has like this weird kind of like, she has a little this kind of like I guess tough streak to her to a certain extent, because as they're talking, because she seems really nice, really sweet. She's like, I'm sorry about my boss calling the other night. It was just he could be kind of a cock. Yes, he could be a cock. Yes, you could say that. And then later, I mean, we're jumping ahead here, but then basically you find out, we talked about this movie enough, but we'll say it again. You find out the reason why they are in Bruges is a hit went wrong. Colin Farrell was supposed to kill this priest. I guess this priest knew something. And then as he did the killing blow to the priest, the bullet went through him and hit a little kid in the head. Now they're in Bruges, hiding out on around close to Christmas.
Well, the thing too is like, because like what Martin said, like the director, is always like, you watch all these action movies and bullets are flying everywhere. He's like, where do all those extra bullets go? When they don't hit anything. He's like, and it's like I never really saw that in a movie where a stray bullet went off and killed somebody. So he's like, that's kind of what I was going for.
Makes sense because they shoot it like it's kind of like, even though he's killing an unarmed man, they shoot it like it's kind of cool. He says like,
Father, I'm here.
He says, like, here to kill you. Just like, boom, 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 like, shoots him through the thing. The guy walks up and he stands all cool, shoots him in the, like, into the back and, like, goes through his chest. But you see a little kid go down.
Like sitting there, kneeling down, praying, and there's, like, a bullet hole in his head.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, it's not just a simple little bullet hole. Like, you literally see part of the kid's head is missing. You're like, fuck, they didn't hold back. I remember when I first saw this movie. And that's after a funny scene, too. He says,
yeah, like that's what throws you off in this film. And I think that is almost like the charm of it. Because as far as it's like, it's half of this dark comedy, but then it's half this like serious dark drama, but like all meshed together. And there's other movies that do that, There's like
not as well though, I don't think.
No, maybe I almost feel like I'm having a hard time thinking of movies that kind of come before In Bruges that did a lot. I can sort of think of movies afterwards, but maybe it's more we find it funny. Like think of Out of the Furnace to me feels like similar vein. It's not nearly as funny as In Bruges. But it still has sort of like, it's a very dark movie, but then it has these comedic moments. But maybe we just find that more fun than anybody else.
I'm going to say this. This movie, like Martin McDonagh, he just has a really fucked up sense of humor. We just found the funny in Out of the Furnace. Because Out of the Furnace is not a comedy. It is just us pinpointing moments and laughing about it.
Okay, I'll say this. Woody Harrelson is a comedy in that. But there's other moments in that movie that I think the director made Out of the Furnace to be slightly funny. I don't think it's supposed to be like... It's not like it's supposed to be, selected in comedy section. You're not going to go to a fucking video store and find people like, hilarious, funny movies.
You could say there's probably a funny moment or two, but it's like you and me find Woody Harrelson funny, just like in that is like nasty ass workout shirt, like basketball shorts after just shooting up heroin, just like jogging in place, just getting all amped up and shit. Like or just kind of like just our favorite line, like, give me that fucking hot dog. Like that.
But the thing about In Bruges, once again, is like, it's one of those movies, it's almost like you don't even know where to kind of classify it. It's like, do you put it in your comedy section or do you put it in your drama section? It technically could go into both, and it would make sense. Nobody would argue.
It's also some of the small things about that movie, like some of the humor. It's like one of those things, like, he has no problems, like, he doesn't pull any punches on the humor. Like, on trying to offend people, because they'll, like, make fun of fat people, they make fun of midgets. There's a part where...
I just love it, just like, they're walking through in Bruges at night, and now fucking Ray's drinking beer and everything, and he's sort of having a better time, because he's, like, partially drunk, and all of a sudden he looks over, he's like, what are they doing over there? He's like, oh, well, don't worry, we don't need to go that way. They're filming midgets! Oh my god, they're filming fucking midgets!
Midgets in fucking Bruges!
And he's just so excited.
And he runs over there, he's just like, fuck off and go look at your buildings. They're filming midgets.
I just love how excited he gets. His eyes are so wide. It's just...
the fucked up thing he says. He sees a girl like, oh my god, she's gorgeous. And like, there's a girl played by... She's in like the Harry Potter movies.
Is that what she's in? I always kind of went...
She was like, she's like the French girl in Harry Potter. Like, she was in the fourth movie, she was the French girl that went to that all fancy French school. And then she, like, later hooked up and got married to... She dies in the last movie, but she gets married to the guy who can turn into a werewolf.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she, like, I feel bad, but, like, because I
well, she's got a very, like, Euro name.
Yeah, it's a very hard to pronounce name, but she does a fantastic job. And she kind of goes up, she's like, so I hope your midget doesn't fucking kill himself. Like, that's his opening line.
He's going up this list, he's looking, Time Bandits, the midget killed himself, and, this movie they killed him, and this one, too.
I think the R2-D2 guy's still hanging in there. Good for him, but
for some reason, he's got this backlog of knowledge of midgets that have, like, killed themselves. It's just like that old tale of, like, in The Wizard of Oz, you're supposed to be able to see, like, there's a midget hanging himself in the background.
It's just a flamingo or something like that. Yeah, but, like,
it's like that flamingo hanged himself. It's just a flamingo, like, that hung itself, like almost like a Flintstones one, like, it's not just a living.
Not anymore, it's not. But, then, like, I think it's funny, because after she says, like, he doesn't like being called a midget, he prefers being called a dwarf. And then later, he's talking to Brendan Gleeson, he says, like, well, here's what we're going to do today. If you want to go on your date with that girl, because he gets a date the next day, he's all excited. Like, I got a date with this girl, you know. He's like, all right, well, if you're going to go on a date with this girl, and I'm going to take the fall for you, we're going to do whatever I want. And we're going to find something that balances between fun and culture. And Ray just says, I'm pretty sure it's going to tip into culture like a big, fat, retarded black girl on a seesaw opposite, he pauses, a dwarf. Like, he suddenly gets politically correct because that's what the girl prefers him to say. Fuck everything else, but the girl's like, well, she prefers a dwarf. But I can still make fun of retarded people and black people.
I like Ken's like, why is she gotta be black? He's like, I just knew a black girl who was retarded.
I just thought that was funny. Like, it just felt like, I don't know, just so many things with that movie. Because it's really just like two hitmen. I don't mean this in a negative way. There's hardly a story there. It's two hitmen just hanging out, killing time, waiting for orders. And then once Ray Fiennes finally calls.
Well, there's other great stuff too. Like, there's another scene I just love is like, I think it's right after they do, like, they're hanging out and they're doing all what Ken wants to do. And then Ray fucking leaves and he's sitting on a park bench and he goes to wave to the midget. Like, he's so excited. Like, it's almost like his new best friend.
You just saw him from a distance, yeah.
Then, like, he doesn't fucking even wave back or look. And he's all like, that fucking midget didn't wave. He's like, that fucking cunt. He gets all pissy. And then I love later on, he's in, like, a bar. And this actually passed. There's another great part. There's just so much great comedy in it. And, like, even scenes that, like, I've never seen in a movie before, too. Because when he's on the date and he finally goes back home with her, it turns out that what she is she's a con woman who her and her friend pretty much rob tourists. Mm-hmm. And this guy comes out with a gun and is like, says, like, oh, I'm going to rob you. So fucking Ray takes the gun and he's like, oh, well, don't worry. That's just blanks or whatever. Fires one off, tests it's a blank. And then the guy tries to come at him with a knife and he shoots him in the eye with the blank, which is like something that's like, I've never seen that in any other movie before. Small things like that is what I love in film. It's just like, you can even have a movie that I don't really care about, but if I see something in it where it's like, I've never seen that before, I almost go like, well, it might have been the greatest movie, but I love seeing just like somebody trying something completely different. And that right there is just one of those ones like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I would have never thought, like, yeah, take a Blake and just shoot it right in the guy's eye, but because it's still fire fucking coming out.
And then he turns around to the girl and he's like, so you were conning me? She's like, no, I wasn't conning you. We usually con tourists, but I wasn't conning you. I told him to take the night off. He's just like, and then he says like, oh, then he's trying to have a serious conversation with the girl. Then she turns, he's like, oh, I can't say. He turns around, yeah, because I just shot a fucking blanket in your fucking eye.
Well, like common knowledge.
He goes back to the girl, and like it's like one of those things. Like he says like, oh my god, why is it that skinheads gotta rock around like a bunch of fucking poofs now? There was a time where you just beat up 12-year-old Pakistani kids. Now you gotta go around trying to be tougher than what you really are.
He's like, this always happens. Like, you know, I met a girl like you. It just always goes wrong. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we know a nice girl.
And she's like, you mean that? He's like somebody who he just found out was gonna try and rob him. He's like, a nice girl like you. It's like, damn, that's a good person.
Well, it's just like, I like the bluntness of like kind of how he is. Just like first date, they talk about like, well, what do you do? It's like, I'll kill people. And she's like, well, I sell drugs to actors. And then I just like too, because Anita's like ends up taking like he robs her of like her drugs and everything, and then
once they leave, she's looking around like, okay, what do I got? He's like, coke, pills, okay. He just leaves.
Just like takes it, and then he meets up, and then he sees the midget or like and the little guy's played by
Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, he's in all
Game
sorts
of
of good
Thrones.
stuff. Well, I don't think of that.
I mean, I don't watch Game of Thrones.
But I think he's like an X-Men and shit.
Yeah, he's
Fuck this chair and its fucking squeakiness. You gotta sit up like. Okay.
All upright and shit.
All fucking up. I can't fucking relax and rock. But like he's in the bar and he sees he got like this hook or whatever, and he goes over and he just like starts poking him in the fucking head.
The side of the head.
Yeah, just like I like because then he finally turns around and is like, what? He's all like, why didn't you wave to me in the park this morning? I was on a lot of horse tranquilizers. I wasn't waving to anybody except for maybe a horse. And he's just standing there, and then I like because also like Ken comes back and he's all like just did like a line of coke, and they're both staring down looking at him. You want to do some cocaine?
Yeah, and that's what he has like this arched eyebrow with this fucked up look on his face, just staring at him. And it's when he first comes in, like, before this we find out that's where we have the conversation with Ray Fiennes as Harry with Ken. We don't see Harry for a while. And he just says, like, he just has this, like, you know, earlier they kind of missed out a phone call from Harry because they were supposed to get orders and all that, and like it's
out sightseeing or something.
Yeah, and then like, you know, the night when they're waiting there, he's like, tell Ray to go out and do something. What's Ray doing? He's like, I don't know. I think he's gonna go find bowling. There's bowling in Bruges. Well, there might be. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't know that.
He's like, he's not sure. Maybe he's like, all right, well, go double check and make sure he's there. He's in the bathroom. Just go double check. Is he taking a wee or poo? He's like, I'll go check. Just walks over like, oh, am I fucking doing this? Opens the door so the phone could hear. Closes it. Yeah, he's done. He's out of there. He's like, well, make sure he's not the door. Go back. He's like, I'm pretty sure he's gone. Oh, you fucking know for a fact. Just go check. He's like, gets up again. Just walks over. Just like, oh, okay, whatever. Opens and closes the door. Then walks back. So he's like, yeah, he's gone. That's when he drops the line. That's where you get the whole how he doesn't like Bruges, and you find out the reason he sent him to Bruges is he wanted to give Ray one last good time because Ken has to kill him. Ken's the one that has to kill him because like he killed a little kid.
Yeah, because Ray finds goes just like you got to have kind of like morals, and there's a ground that you can't cross. And he's like, in killing kids, you just don't get away with that. Mm-hmm. And I like, because he even says, he's like, if I accidentally shot a kid, I'll just do it right there and shoot myself in the head. Just call it a day. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's it, you know? You just don't fucking do that.
And then, like, Ken realizes, oh my god, I gotta kill my friend here. So that's when he bumps into him at the bar. They're hanging out, and then that leads to them having, like, hanging out with the, like, after
hookers and...
like, two hookers and Peter Dinklage. And Peter Dinklage just on this cocaine-fueled rant, just going like...
It's gonna be a war, man.
It's gonna be a war, man, between the whites and the blacks. Whose side of the Vietnamese... He has just a weird obsession with the Vietnamese.
Yeah, because I know the Vietnamese is in all the movies, too.
He always mentions the Vietnamese. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like, what side are the Vietnamese on? The blacks. Mexicans. The blacks.
Well, because there's even another Vietnamese part, too, like when they're on the date, when Ray's character is, and he's talking to that guy, he's like, could your girlfriend just, like, not smoking here? He's like, well, you're in the smoking section. And then, like, it goes on, like, I can't remember what he says, but he says something about Vietnam. He's like, well, just like the Vietnamese. Like, what does the Vietnamese have to do with anything?
Because he thought he was American, so they lost the Vietnamese.
And I'm like, dude, because he's like, we're the Vietnamese. Like, just because you say it over and over doesn't make it fucking true.
What the fuck does that got to do with anything, you know? He just has, it's just like how Gray has these weird quirks. Like, he has this, like you said, like, this knowledge of just different dwarves that died. And then he just has this weird obsession with the Vietnamese, like, going to the Vietnamese.
He just, you know, you find people like that every once in a while that at first you meet, you're like, this person is kind of dumb, but then all of a sudden they got this weird fucking knowledge of shit that's like why and how, I can't figure it out, but some things just stick, and they just got... I don't know. And, like, yeah, there's always the Vietnamese. And even the Seven Psychopaths, the Vietnamese come back, too. But
and then, like, what ends up happening is they hang out, and you find out that Brendan Gleeson, like, he's having this whole cocaine-fueled rant, and then Brendan Gleeson says, all right, well, what side am I supposed to pick on? Because my wife was black. She's dead. And you find out
she was killed by a white person. Yeah,
and you find out that Harry was the one that killed the guy who killed his wife. So that's why he works for Harry now. Since then, he's been kind of stuck working with him.
Yeah.
So that's why he has this weird dedication to Harry. So out of that, you know, that's where it kind of gets real for a minute. Then, like, you're like, all right, well, time to leave. And well, actually, first off, I got to say this. This kind of like this came out beforehand, but like Colin Farrell is staring at Peter Dinklage, just giving this weird fucked up look. He's just like, have you ever thought about killing yourself because you're a midget? He's just, what the fuck kind of question is that? He's just like, I don't know, like, you know, he's just like, what about, like, you know, I think he said somewhere there's like, what about, like, black midgets? He's just like, you have no idea the shit I get from black midgets. And it's like, the movie just pulls no fucking punches when it comes to, like, you know, trying to
say shit. That's why, I think that's why the other thing I just like about it. Just... no problems. Like, I just characters with no filters.
Yeah, and like
not a single character has a filter in that movie too.
A bunch of, like, you know, drug-fueled hitmen and like junkies would not have a filter like that. You know?
Exactly.
And then, like, that's where we go to Ray getting. That's where they go home, And that's where it gets kind of serious for a minute. Like after they leave, he then karate chops Peter Dinklage to the side of the neck. Goes like, I'm taking my drugs with me. Oh yeah, no wait. He's like chops him in the side of the neck. Mine, and grabs it and leaves. He's like, you don't know karate. And then they like go back, and the next day he's like staring at a playground, and he talks to the.
This is the part. It's like the saddest part of the movie, but for some reason, maybe just because since I've seen the movie so many times, you just got Ray, and he's sitting there, and he's like watching these children, and like. There's all these like deleted scenes in that movie too, which this movie has some of the most interesting deleted scenes because a lot of them are actually kind of cool. Like I almost kind of wish they were back in the movie. Mm-hmm. But then there's a lot of them too where they almost feel a little bit redundant, so I see why they're kind of deleted. But it's like they have a lot of scenes where Ray keeps like looking at children throughout the movie. It's fucking weird if you explain about the rest of it. But and there's a part where he's just sitting there watching, these kids. And there's the line he says, I guess first there, but he says a couple times in the movie, he's like, I'll kill a little boy, but I don't know what it is about it. Like, he busts up crying and everything, but for some reason, maybe just because I've seen the movie so many times that now it's like, it's like, I'll kill the little boy!
He's like crying into Brendan Gleeson's shoulder about it.
But this is the point where Brendan Gleeson's like, he decides, like, okay, I'm gonna kill him. Whatever. It's like, I gotta do what I gotta do. It's a job. It's like, I know he's my friend, but that's just how life goes. And he goes up and he's walking up. He's got the silencer and a trench coat, which just looks very like mischievous, anyways.
Towards a children's playground.
And then all of a sudden he comes up to him, and fucking Ray's gonna shoot himself in the head right there,
and
fucking exactly 6-shooter style.
And this is the thing that's kind of funny. I mean, it's sad and it's sad and it's tragic, but at the same time it's kind of funny because it's his job to kill him, but he's stopped and he's gonna kill himself, so it makes him guilt-free. But he stops him. He's like, no, wait. He says, you're going to kill me? You're going to kill yourself. But you're going to fucking kill me. He's like, we do have a gun there. And that's when he drops it on him and he tells him, like, look, there's nothing you can do about it now. Yes, it's horrible that you killed a kid, but what's killing yourself?
Oh, kill a little boy.
You can't kill a little boy. What you got to do is you just got to get out of here. You just got to get out of here, live your life, and try and find some way to redeem him. So then he gets on a train and goes, and that's where Ken calls Harry. He says, you hear that train? That's where Ray is. I don't know where it's going. Neither does he. Hangs up. And that's where you get him. He's on the phone, just staring at it blankly. And then this is probably one of my favorites.
Probably the best line in the entire movie, and it's like the most like simplistic,
it's like almost what a 14-year-old would say. He starts slamming the phone, just like, his wife just
shows his kids, they're like all turning around this like little happy family.
He's just like, Harry, he says, what? He says, it's an inanimate fucking object. You're an inanimate fucking object!
And then I love later because when he comes down, he's like, I didn't mean to call you an inanimate fucking object. I'm sorry.
It's like first there's even like a build-up. I like it. There's even a build-up. He's just like, I gotta go. It's just something I have to do. He's just like, can you call the boys? No, this is me. I gotta do it. This for me. He says, okay, we're gonna get violent. Yes, I just want you to know I love you. And I'm sorry, I called you an inanimate fucking object. And then
I really think this is probably I love Ray Fiennes. This role is like the pinnacle of like all this
is
stuff.
Like best thing.
And he's like only in the movie for technically like 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. Mm-hmm. But it's so much fun with him in this part.
And then like when
he's the bad guy, but you love him.
Yeah, he's like such a likable like villain. And then once he gets talking to Ken, once he gets to in Bruges, like I starts talking about, I'm gonna kill you, this and that. And he's talking to him, and first he says something to the lines of like, it's just one of the best parts. It's just like he says like, so look, he was gonna kill himself. He says first off he says something to the lines of like, hey Laura, hey Laura. It's those things he was like, I'm gonna like. Huh?
I need you guys to do me a favor.
Okay, we can put a pause here. And we're back with our second half of our In Bruges / Seven Psychopaths / Six Shooter / Martin McDonagh.
We had to take a taco break, literally.
We did. We literally went to this place called the Magical Native American Store and got ourselves burritos and quesadillas and all kinds of fun stuff. But I think where we left off at, Ralph Fiennes shows up in Bruges, his favorite place as being a 7-year-old boy, which is interesting. I watched the deleted scenes again because I don't think I've seen those since I originally got that DVD, and I kind of forgot. There's all sorts of flashbacks in there that were kind of cut out. There's one when he's a little boy and he's in Bruges, and then there's another flashback, which is kind of an interesting one, where it shows Ralph Fiennes killing Ken's person. It's like almost like takes place in the 70s or so.
and he was played by Matt Smith right there. That's the
Yeah.
guy that plays. Well, you know him as like Skynet in the new Terminator movie, but he was also Doctor. He was one of the doctors in Doctor Who.
Yeah, I just know the Skynet one. Yeah. I don't know the Doctor Who one.
I don't know that nerdy shit. Get that out of my face.
Well, Doctor Who's one of those shows. Probably if you watch it, it's totally fine. But I think it's more like the fans sort of just ruin it for me. Where it's like, I don't want to be a part of your group, your cult.
We'll get back to.
But it has nothing to do with it. We have to even go on that tangent.
I'll just say this real quick. In Bruges, we'll get to that in just a second. I just want to say it is one of those things. The more like a Doctor Who fan tries to get me onto the thing, I'm like, fuck that show. I literally had a friend like try and sit me down, almost strong arm me into watching the show. And then the more I watched, I'm like, okay, this is actually a pretty good show. But the more you try to defend that show, the worse it seems. So
yeah, I think it's what you have to naturally go to Doctor Who.
Whovians, keep that in mind. Don't keep on trying to twist people's arms into watching it.
Does not work.
Not for that show. You gotta just let them go to that show, and then they'll get into it. Anyway, but back to this though.
Back to Bruges in it.
To like Dr. Bruges. No. And so when Ray Fiennes comes in and sees it's one of the funniest things to me because. It's like he's already pissed off that he let his job get away. He's already pissed off that he let his job get away, and he's all like, I can't believe you let him fucking get away.
Well, they're sitting in like this outdoor diner area too, talking about this,
and then he says something to the effect of, he says like, look, he was gonna kill himself, and I stopped him. Like, wait, it just gets fucking better. So let me get this straight.
You don't have to do any fucking work.
You just had to let him solve your problem, and apparently his problem,
problem.
But you had to fucking step in and do something,
And then the one thing I love too is there's a part where he goes like, or Ken's like, well, he's suicidal. Well, he's not. And then he's like, Ray Fiennes like, well, he's not fucking suicidal, is it? He didn't do it, so he's not suicidal. Which is always like the thing I like. Is like whenever you hear people that go like, when they publicly announce like, oh, I was gonna kill myself. It's like, no, you weren't. I go back to my unloving father thing where the kid goes like, I'm gonna kill myself, Dad. A real man just goes through with it. Yeah. That's the suicidal person, is the person that does it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that line.
Real suicidal man.
That's what I love in Bruges, because it's like, did he kill himself? No. Well, then he's not suicidal then. Look, I'm suicidal. You're suicidal. We're all fucking suicidal.
Just how fucking angry he is. Just like, Ray Fiennes when he just gets mad.
I like he's like, we're not even gonna have a bloody shootout here in the streets, in the park here with all these people.
And then he says like, all right, well, if you're gonna kill me, I'm not gonna stop you. Let's just go up to the top of the tower and get a great view of the place. And earlier on, there's this one real dickhole of a guy working the register at the of the tower.
Where Ken's like, he's off by like 10 cents.
He has to break a 20 or something.
Or break a 50, I think.
And then he's like, are you happy with your job? Very much. And then at some point he goes up there and says like, it's closed. Like, we're just gonna go up there for like 5 minutes. We'll be right down. He says like, then he literally pokes Ray Fiennes in the face. And Ray Fiennes
he's like poking him in the forehead. Like, and it is fucking clever. Well, he doesn't even say fucking.
And he has like this vacant expression. Like he's not mad, he's not angry, he's just this blank vacant expression. And he's just poking him in the forehead. And he
like
just
he's
pauses.
trying to like push the information into him, like.
And he just like blunks like, did he just fucking do that? And he just like almost robotically just starts beating the fuck out of the guy.
He starts just pistol whipping the guy.
And not even like smiling, not even angry, just almost robotically, like, I have to do this. And then they go up there, they get one more view, and they have this conversation, and then Ray's like, I'm not gonna kill you. He's like, oh, I love you too much. You're too important to me. Or not Ray. Ray Fiennes. Well, Ray Fiennes, not Ray the character. Harry says, I love you too much. I'm not gonna kill you. And then he says, oh, thanks. He says, but he did call me and my wife, and me kids a bunch of cunts, and shoots him in the leg.
So he's like, he's still gonna let you just get away with it. I love that part too. He's like, it's a little bit before that, but when Ken goes, yeah, I know. Where Ken goes, he's like, you're a cunt. Your family's a cunt. Everybody's a cunt. Your kids are a cunt. He's like, don't call all kids a cunt. Okay, well, they're not cunts. I retracted it. He's like, yeah, but you call all kids a cunt. He's like, well, I retracted it, didn't I?
It don't count. You already said it. It's already out there.
And then they just go through this whole battle, and then all of a sudden, the guy that got shot in the eye with the blank fucking comes up and tells him, like, hey, like, fucking Colin Farrell's out there on the... He's out there in the street. And so they start running down.
Because we should clarify, earlier, Colin Farrell got kicked off the train because a cop came up to him, and it's the there's earlier, like when he was on a date with his girlfriend. There's Sky. You think he's American, but he's complaining about Colin Farrell, and because they're smoking up there, so he punches the guy in the face.
It's like he blames like John Lennon's death on it.
Yeah, he's like, that's for yeah. And there's even a part where it's just like he punches like a lady in the face. He's like, did you just punch that lady? He's like, no, I would never hit a woman. A woman with a bottle. That's a different story. You can kill someone with a bottle. You know? And then so they see him, so he gets kicked off the train for that, because that's something that happened earlier in the movie. They recognize him. And then, so they're out in the street having a drink, and that's when the skinhead Eric sees them and goes and tells Harry. Mm-hmm. But I do want to say, before that happens, because Harry has to stop and get a gun from a guy, and Eric's there, and he has like an eye patch, and he's all sad. He's all like, the doctor tells me I can't see out this eye no more. I can't see out this eye. He's just like, well, it is your fault, isn't it? He's like, oh, what do you mean? I thought you wanted to kill this guy. I do want him dead. I want him fucking crucified. But the fact that you came at a man with a gun with little blanks, well, it's not really his fault. He turned you around and stitched you up like a blind little gay boy, is it? Like a blind little gay boy. I don't know why that's a funny line to me, but it just is. Patched you up like a gay little blonde boy.
The movie just filled with so much good moments in it. But we cut back to the end, and then next thing you know, they find, because it's almost like at the point where Harry's gonna say, "Okay, whatever, he got away. I'll just kind of let this go. I don't want to dick around anymore." But then the second that, oh no, Ray's back in Bruges, something's got to be done. Mm-hmm. So this is the point where I think he shoots Ken a couple more times or so. And he starts running down the stairs. He's going to stop him. And Ken just starts climbing his way back to the top and then fucking jumps off the edge. Pretty much to be... he knows he's going to die. So he drops his body, I don't know how many stories that is. 10 stories or something down.
Pretty high just to, like, warn Ray in time to get out of there.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, he's just all, like, messed up. He's on the ground. Kind of shows it kind of quickly. But
even part of his hand is, like, literally missing.
It's, like, jacked up. Yeah, and his arms are all broken and everything. They do a good job on that. And then you just kind of get this final shootout where they're running away. And there's one line I love is Ray runs all the way back to the hotel.
To grab a gun.
To grab the gun, like this extra gun that he had. The one he's going to kill himself with. There's a part where, like, the lady's there who owns the hotel, and she's, like, with a child. And Ray finds is like, well, he's like, we're not going to have a shootout here, or whatever. It's like, no, off the baby here, It's all about not killing kids. He's like, I'm a good man.
I don't want to knock you down because I'm a nice person. I want to kill him. And then he's just
like a part two where, like, I can't remember, like, how the line comes up, but Ray finds, like, looking around the corner, he's like, no, we can't end here. This is the shootout. He's all excited about it.
And then he says something to him. He's just like, all right, I'll tell you what, Harry, you're still just you and me. I'm gonna run out, jump out the window, and try and land in the river. He says, is the river is it to my left or to my right? It's a big fucking river. How do you miss it? He's just like, I just fucking got here. I don't know. What are you getting mean with me now? He's in the middle of a fucking shootout too.
Yeah. And then they pretty much go through there, and then they almost come up. There's kind of like some subliminal messages because they see that painting early on of like the Dante's Inferno one, where it's all the weird shit. Where it's the only time that Ray goes like, he's like, all these other paintings, they're just like rubbish, but this one, this is actually quite good. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, towards the end of the final shootout area, once like Ray's wounded and so on, and they're about to kill each other, there's all these like creatures and masks and so on, and it's supposed to be part of that painting. So you start seeing all this stuff, almost like he's coming to the end. I guess you could even say it's a Dante's Inferno thing, since they're like tying that sort of in there.
I'm not sure if you said this because they're going by like they're shooting a movie, so he's going by the set. Did you say that?
Yeah, well, I didn't say it's that, but yeah, the movie set with the midget is kind of like all tied together in that, but it ties to that photo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they just kind of get into like a final battle, and then Harry ends up killing Colin Farrell, but in the process, he shoots a kid too, and then goes to take his own life, just saying like, you just gotta, what's the line he says?
You gotta live by your principles.
Yeah, you gotta live by principles, and kills himself.
But the thing is, he doesn't kill the kid. He accidentally shoots Peter Dinklage.
Oh, was that
the dwarf? Yeah, he accidentally shot Peter Dinklage because Peter Dinklage was in a schoolboy outfit.
He's like, thinks he killed a kid.
So he thinks he killed a kid, and Colin Farrell's still kind of like barely alive. He's like barely. He says, Harry, no, it's not. He's like, gotta live by your principles. Shoots himself in the head, And that's where Colin Farrell
It's just a midget. It's not a real puss.
And that's when he loads him into the back of the car, and he's just like, that's when I realized if I live through this, I'm gonna go tell the mother and turn myself in. Whatever happens, happens. And I realized maybe dying here is hell. Maybe in Bruges. And then he's like, and then you just look him back up at the ceiling of the ambulance, cuts to black, and then slow like piano violin song. Yeah, and it's
I love that tune though that plays throughout it.
And that's so it's a very bleak ending, but it's very fitting for the movie, and I love that movie so much. The thing about that movie is it very well could just be not even a dark comedy, just a dark drama. But just the humor, it almost seems like without that humor, the movie would not be nearly as good. It's just like, okay, so a couple guys just hanging out, not doing a whole lot. What's this? Then you add in all that fucked up dark comedy, it just makes it 100 times better. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, it's just totally like you could just rewatch it all the time, and it's good every single time. It's not better each time you watch it.
And the thing about it is, it's not even like a upper movie. It doesn't really even. It's not even like, oh, it's a feel good movie. It's not. But regardless, I never get sad when I watch that movie because I enjoy
feel great
it so
when I watch
much.
it because it's just there's something about it. It's not. It's almost like not downer. I mean, yeah, it sucks that all three of them die. No, technically Colin Farrell could live. You don't know. Even though he's been shot like fucking 8 times by that point.
And even if he does live, he's gonna probably spend the rest of his life in prison or going on death row. So, I mean, either way, it's a kind of a downer ending, but it's fitting. You know what I mean? It is that whole thing. You can't escape this. You know? No,
it works. And yeah, in Bruges, one of the most classic movies I can think of the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely say one of my all-time favorites of that decade.
I'd say it's probably one of my top 10 favorite movies.
Yeah,
maybe even top 5.
So good.
Yeah.
But going to another one that's pretty much just about as good as In Bruges is Seven Psychopaths, his next follow-up.
Which, this, as we said earlier, this was originally going to be a play, but then he decided to cut out of that and not make it a play. He made it into a movie instead, obviously.
Well, he got to a point where he was like, I like doing plays, they're cool, they have these things, but I'm not really into it anymore. You know what I mean? Which is kind of like, you do all these plays, it's just kind of like, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm doing movies, see ya!
Yeah, it was fun while it lasted.
It was fun, it was like, something to do, while you're waiting to make a movie.
Where this one, I could say
I want some real actors, not you over-the-top motherfuckers, just totally burning his play bridge.
Well, actually, one of the plays, Christopher Walken was actually the star in one of the plays. So,
yeah.
And this one, he gets it back. This one is I can say this. This one definitely feels a lot more autobiographical. And on top of that, it also, because aside from just being about a writer, the main character's name is Martin, and he's Irish.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is, going back to In Bruges really quickly, is that one, it's he said that he made that one because he went on a trip to In Bruges, and he's like, at first I was having this great time. I was like, man, there's all these cool things to see, all these places to go. And he's like, about 3 hours into it, I started having this other part of my brain going, yeah, but it's just okay. Not that great. And he's like, I started having this conflicting things, and that's how he made the two characters were based off his feelings of In Bruges. Like how he really did enjoy it and like it, but the other half was kind of like, I'm kind of bored.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
But no, Seven Psychopaths definitely does have that feel, which, here's a cool little factoid that came up on that movie. This ties into, our stories of, Expendables. But originally, Mickey Rourke dropped out of Expendables 2, answers the question why he's not in that movie, and why he doesn't have it's not because he has a big dick tattooed on his back. Or whatever. Or Stallone's back, I guess, technically what it was, and that's why he got kicked out of Expendables, our theory on it. Mm-hmm. But he was going to play the Woody Harrelson character.
Really?
Which would have been okay, I'll say this. I think the Woody Harrelson character is a much better choice. But it would have been still interesting just to see Mickey Rourke in that. It sounds weird because I just don't picture Mickey Rourke nearly as funny. I feel that role might have been a little bit more serious if he did it.
I think it's one of those things, it's funny because you got this big, scary, intimidating guy kind of holding I love this little dog, look at this little dog, you know what I mean? He's like a big,
I will say, I think when it's Woody Harrelson though, it does up the comedy factor, because no matter what, I don't know what it is about Woody Harrelson, he can play every kind of role, but he always kind of makes me laugh. He can do the most serious, fucked up thing ever, but I'm still kind of laughing. I don't know why that is. It's something about just his charisma and just him doing it.
Well, I'll say this: even though I love Woody Harrelson, he isn't really the funny part of the movie. He's a good character. He's like just kind of angry, and it's more of like the humor kind of comes out of him just being so kind of blunt and angry about certain things. He doesn't really have, because the main source of humor in this movie is probably the two main sources of humor. Actually, no, I'll say three.
Technically, mostly.
Three. I mean, it's kind of like.
I'd say Sam Rockwell is probably the main source of it.
Sam Rockwell, and then like I'm gonna say Christopher Walken for being kind of like awkward and kind of quiet, and then thirdly I'm gonna just say Colin Farrell, not so much for being like he says a lot of funny shit. It's more of just his reaction to shit going on. Like there's a part, like the part. I mean, we'll get to this main part of the reason why. Like when the car blows up, he says, "That's just fucking great." You know what that is? Fucking great. You know, just like how he's just trying to like kind of hold it all together the whole time.
Because Colin Farrell's really he's the only normal person in the movie in a sense. He's just even though he writes screenplays, but he's just a regular kind of guy. It's almost like he's not really even a famous screenwriter. He's just like, he's got this small little Hollywood, apartment or LA apartment and everything. And then he's just got his buddy who's this out-of-work actor, but he's just like, he's kind of like you can tell in the beginning he's just like, he's a little bit over the edge. Because it starts off the first time you see him, well, technically not the first time you see him, second time you see him. Yeah, it's like he ends up like punching out the director at a casting call.
You don't see him, he just talks about like, yeah, punch the director guy. I'm like, why'd you punch the director guy? He's being a dick. Fuck him.
You're never going to get another job. Oh, who cares?
And then like, it's one of those things where, I mean, you definitely see kind of like a lot of, the character in Six Shooter, the young guy in Sam Rockwell in this movie. Sam Rockwell, who plays Billy. Colin Farrell plays Marty, which Martin McDonagh. So I'm pretty sure this is meant to be like somewhat autobiographical. Christopher Walken's character name is Hans. In this movie, I mean, I think this one's a little harder to break down because I think this movie's pretty layered. I mean, it's a great movie still, but I will say this one is much more of a dark comedy where I think in Bruges, it's dark comedy, definitely. But it's like, it doesn't have a dark comedy story. It's just a very dark story and just shit happens in it that just happens to be ridiculously funny. Where this is a comedy. It's a dark comedy.
It's a dark comedy,
but it's definitely
and it's almost more of an action too. It's got more action scenes in it than like in Bruges. Just has moments of action.
Mm-hmm. This also seems to be kind of like it's about storytelling, but beyond that, it also seems to be a little bit more of a kind of a critique on people that were sort of inspired by Tarantino. They never say that. But for a minute, it almost seems like you're watching one of those movies that came out like in the mid-90s that was trying really hard to be a Tarantino movie that wasn't a Tarantino movie.
And there are some good movies on that. That'd be a fun podcast to do. Is just to talk about like all those handful of like Tarantino kind of like rip-off movies, but the ones that are kind of good. Like a Boondock Saints and Way of the Gun. Yeah, Guy Ritchie is kind of like almost a perfect example. It's like the British Tarantino.
I think Guy Ritchie kind of stands out more on his own, but I think you could definitely see some you could see some Tarantino-ness in him.
Yeah.
But yeah, this definitely is trying to make kind of like you said, commentary on things like Way of the Gun or
Way of the Gun. There's a movie that probably nobody talks about.
I like Way of the Gun. That's
I do too. It's a joy one. It's got a great ending fucking shootout.
That's like one of the coolest shootouts I've seen in the movie. Yeah. And very Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid kind of ending. But then only actually see the shootout.
Exactly. So,
but so this one, I think it's kind of a commentary on that and just on different ways of telling stories, and also just on different ways of being like passive.
And I also like too because it's sort of like each character represents like a different version of like how you would want to tell a story. Like everybody's kind of got their own way. Like I like how Sam Rockwell is the guy. He wants guns ablazing. He wants women getting shot for no reason at all. He just wants like that, like almost like the stereotypical action movie is his favorite one. He's just like explosions, people are getting shot but getting back up and keep shooting again. Almost like it's not really logical, but it's just really fun.
And then Hans, the Christopher Walken character,
he's not even into action movies.
He likes very artsy stuff. He likes very well thought stories. And then Marty is somewhere right in the middle. Martin's the one that's trying to he has writer's block and he's trying his best to come up with the story. But he doesn't know where he's going with this. He's like, so I want to make the story about like a psychopath. But the thing is, he's a Buddhist. He doesn't kill people. But he's a psychopath. And I don't know. I'll figure something out.
It was like, I think I'm dropping the Buddhist character.
And then other thing about the movie is because it's called Seven Psychopaths, but really it's I'm not complaining none. The Seven Psychopaths, some of them really aren't even in the actual movie. They're more of like kind of within stories within a story, because this movie is very meta, it is very self-aware, and this one I think it's definitely way more complex than in Bruges, but it's still really funny and really entertaining, and actually has some real sincere moments. Because like I think you're about to say something. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, because like just like some of the ones. The one psychopath I always think is a really cool one is like the Vietnamese guy, and this kind of goes through the whole movie. You see these little snippets of this, and at first Colin Farrell's like, he's like, I just like seeing a Vietnamese guy like dressed like a priest. Is he a priest? No, he's not a priest. But something about a Vietnamese guy sitting on a bed with a hooker, dressed like a priest with a revolver. I just like. And you just at first, so it's like they almost introduce these things. It's almost like you see a movie getting written as the movie goes on. Mm-hmm. So maybe like. I will say, if you're into storytelling, this movie actually has a much bigger impact than somebody who just says, like, hey, I just want to see a movie that's kind of funny with some action in it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it doesn't, like, grab as well, because I really like Seven Psychopaths. I would say it's almost just as good as in Bruges. And Bruges to me is maybe a little bit more classic, but Seven Psychopaths, like, it's just like a pure perfect movie. Like, there is nothing wrong with it.
It's still, it definitely is, I will say, to me, regardless of the ending, this is a feel-good movie to me. I think this definitely is a feel-good movie for me. And lots of people die, and there's a lot of violence. But, I mean, it is one of those things where you have, I did like what you said. I think a lot of people, if you do tell stories, this does have a much more bigger impact on you. Because I talked to some people who saw the movie, and they just didn't like it. They didn't hate it, but like, it just didn't do nothing for me. I mean, it was kind of funny, but I didn't really understand. There's all these stories going on. And I think a lot of people, I'm not trying to sound like elitist here, but I think a lot of people, they just didn't get there watching a very meta, self-aware movie. And the movie's almost kind of rewriting itself as it goes on. As the movie changes, as the movie goes on, it's almost kind of like someone's rewriting it. Like, no, wait, this should happen. Because, that's kind of what's going on as he's writing the script. And it's not like whatchamacallit, Stranger Than Fiction, where it's some kind of fantasy force changing it. But it's literally, while he is trying to focus on this script, he's using his surroundings as an inspiration. But the movie just takes so many wild turns, you really don't know which narrative turn it's going to go by the end.
No, and I think that's what I really like about it, too. But I have heard some people say that like they found the movie kind of boring. I was just like that. And I was like, oh, really? It's like... I thought that was a fantastic movie. In fact, we put it down as our 2012 greatest movie of the year.
Like, what ended up happening is, so the short and simple of it is, because there's so many stories within this movie, the short and simple of it is, Marty, who's played by Colin Farrell, is a writer who's an alcoholic, and he's having trouble. He just broke up with his girlfriend just broke up with him. His best friend is Sam Rockwell, who is off doing other things. He's an actor. He has trouble getting gigs because he's a little bit of a psycho. And he's just off. He's also a dog kidnapper with Hans, who is the Christopher Walken character. And the thing is, the reason why he's doing like dog kidnapping, it's like they'll kidnap a dog, and then they'll wait for missing signs to go up. They'll bring the dog back to him, get $200, $300, whatever.
And they use Christopher Walken because he just looks like a nice old man. Like, this guy clearly wouldn't steal a dog.
Exactly.
If Sam Rockwell came up, you'd look like that motherfucker stole my dog.
Exactly. So then they end up, so they're doing that, and the reason why Hans is doing it, you don't really know why Billy's doing it, but the reason why Hans is doing it, because he desperately needs money for his wife. His wife who's dying, and I really love the dynamic between the wife, because they have like these weird little kind of awkward things, but it's almost, I think that's really believable and very relatable, because they'll do this thing where he says like, what are you doing? She's an old black lady, and she says something to the line of like, why are you doing what you're doing? He says like, go she get a job for the government. He says, government? People stealing from other people? Then all of a sudden he's just all like, does this weird like spitting, pecking motion. She kind of laughing.
Like an old,
goes to her.
Almost like a Jewish thing.
Yeah, going, almost like very comical, kind of very over the top. It's very kind of weird and awkward.
It's like it's something if you had grandparents from like Eastern Europe might have do.
Yeah, and it's kind of like something they're laughing. She kind of smiles. They get it. So this is something it's like we don't get it, but it's something between them.
We're Americans.
Well, no. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, there's something there the audience member doesn't totally get. I think it's more of like, oh well, that's just something between them. We're not going to explain what that is, but that's
a cultural thing though.
The whole thing. Oh, it literally is.
Yeah, it's like Jewish people do that, and then He's Polish in that movie. They do that.
Oh, okay. Now I feel dumb. Now I feel really fucking stupid.
As I said, because we're Americans, you know. It's like it's not common to see somebody do that.
So I thought that was just some.
If people do that, they're mostly spitting tobacco out.
I figured it was something like that, but I thought he was more doing it just kind of like that's their thing. That's a joke between them, which I think most audience members would probably pick up on that. You know what I mean? I think that kind of works.
Yeah. I think you're
what?
I think you're the guy that thinks that.
I thought apparently it's a big thing in like Poland. I didn't know about that, but the way I viewed it was just something kind of like
you see like in Mel Brooks movies and stuff.
Yeah, I guess I just assumed it was one of those things.
Where's your Jewish reference? A Mel Brooks movie.
Well, they have a lot of small little things kind of like that, like between them, just things that seem kind of like old things, like awkward things older people do. You don't see a whole lot, but it's between them, and it kind of makes it a little bit more believable since it's between. You know what I mean?
And what I kind of like too is just Christopher Walken. He's pretty much just this old gangster guy, but now he's just a very like calm old man. Mm-hmm. And the wife almost feels like she's like totally the exact opposite of that, Mm-hmm. And it's one of those ones because she even says like, "Why do you gotta do stealing?" And it's like before he's like, "Why don't you get a government job?" Well, stealing, no matter what. I don't feel like I'm doing anything better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just that kind of thing, and I kind of like the charm of that character. He's just this guy who they never really explain he probably did some horrible things in the past. They don't really ever get too much into it.
A little bit, but not
they do
much.
a little bit, but not like enough. Because you don't know you know that he's been doing that. Obviously, he stole a bunch back in the day, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And now it's just this guy just trying to save his wife.
Yeah, and then we find out one of the dogs that they stole was the Shih Tzu from Woody Harrelson, who is a big mob guy somewhere in town.
Could have been Mickey Rourke,
who apparently almost was Mickey Rourke, which that would have been really interesting.
I think Martin McDonagh got like somehow him and Mickey Rourke got in a feud, and then Mickey Rourke's like "fuck this" and left, and then he's like "Stallone, take me back in."
I'm sorry, man, you missed your boat.
Oops.
Go back to your Irish boy.
Yeah. And then I don't know what happened to Mickey Rourke after that point. He just went back to wait for Sin City 2.
Well, luckily he got Sin City 2.
Yeah.
But then Woody Harrelson's kind of on this hunt, and even his whole gang, his gang is, I don't remember the actor's name, but he's in a bunch of stuff. He's he always plays some low level mob guy or crime guy.
The bald guy?
Not the bald guy. He was actually, you know who he is? There is that sitcom Grounded for Life. Uh-huh. And he was the weird uncle. He was the weird, awkward uncle in that show. And he was like the guy who had the house party in Superbad. He was the guy in Pineapple Express who wasn't Tracy Morgan. And he was also in Departed, and he was Leo's cokehead cousin. He's like, "Gonna stop doing coke deals, you stupid fucking cousin,"
That's right. I forgot. So he's in all sorts of things.
He does a great job in this movie. Yeah.
Well, the one thing too is I like about Woody Harrelson is he's probably the worst of them all because he's just a big gangster guy. But it's just so funny to see the most toughest guy you can think of, and then but he has this extreme love for his dog.
Yeah, he just loves this dog, and that's the only thing he fucking
brings
cares.
Him happiness.
This little Shih Tzu. And the thing is, the Shih Tzu, it's adorable, but it has no personality. It's not like yep, running in circles,
it's just a toy dog.
It's just it always looks bored. It never barks. It's always just kind of there. And there's even Sam Rockwell. He even tries to be really friendly with the dog. This is he's getting ready to go to a party. He says shake, paw. The dog just looks at him. Paw! That's okay too! Just walks right past the dog.
But I like too because Sam Rockwell, he takes this dog, but he almost becomes attached to it just as much. Mm-hmm. So then because they even have a feud in the end, whose dog is it really now?
Yeah, there's even a part. We're jumping to the end, but there's a part where he says he has a gun to the dog. Says, I'll shoot this fucking dog, and I love this dog. But then you get to what ends up happening is they track down the dog, and Marty just happens to be hanging out at the warehouse where they're kidnapping all the dogs, and within this time he and his girlfriend broke up, and he's just hungover, just I don't want to fucking be here. And there's also earlier on we get one or two quick scenes of it. There is this guy calling himself Jack of Diamonds walking around in the red mask, killing people, and then leaving a Jack of Diamonds card at the crime scene. He's only killing mob bosses. And the very beginning of the movie opens up with these two guys having this very Tarantino, not even Tarantino, a rip-off Tarantino conversation.
Oh yeah, just a conversation about nothing.
Yeah, and then like about like we're gonna kill this lady. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill this lady, and it's actually even a funny conversation. I do enjoy that conversation, but I feel like he was almost trying to mimic other movies, like intentionally, like jokingly mimic other movies that kind of do that, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I think so. Plus, it's kind of a neat thing too, because all of a sudden they're like on this dam, and they're just waiting. They're just waiting to do this like hit, and then all of a sudden, like after about like 6 minutes or so of this conversation, it's like I don't even think there's any cuts. I think it's just one single long take. You just see this guy off in the distance just walking towards him. You don't think anything of it at first because he's so small you can't even tell because there's other people walking by, running, and so on. And as it gets closer and closer, you go, wait a second, well, is he wearing a red hat? And it's like, oh, no, he's just wearing a red, like, face mask. And then he comes up, and then you're like, oh, he's going to shoot him. And then, boom, shoots him both in the back of the head. Credits roll. That's the intro of the movie. But it's a really cool one, because you just see it coming from a long ways away.
And it opens up with a cover of First Cut is the Deepest.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a woman singing. And then the movie picks up from there. And then what saves Marty and Hans is that guy. They go back to Sam Rockwell's house, and Marty's just trying to grasp all this thing, like, what the fuck's going on? And within this time, that's where Tom Waits' character comes in. Tom, like earlier, Billy put in the ad, like, you got a crazy psycho story? Well, come by, talk to my friend, because he's writing a crazy psycho story, you know? We'll share your shit on there! And then that's where that Tom Waits talks.
And this almost, like, relates back to Six Shooter, because he's got the rabbit.
Yeah, because he just walks around with a rabbit, and he just seems awkward as fuck, too. He's just like, are you the guy? He's just like, are you guy that left the message on my machine about like shitting on, like eating my heart and taking a big fat shit on me? He's like, no, I wouldn't do that. He's like, kind of changes his facial expression, turns his head slightly, like, all right, you seem cool. We gotta go inside because we got this. He stole this dog from a gangster. Okay.
Everybody's just totally fine with it.
Then he tells this story to Marty about how he and his wife killed nearly every major serial killer over the last like 30, 40 years.
And he even talks because like his wife was like pretty much abused by a serial killer, and like her family was all chopped up and murdered, or friends or whoever they were. Mm-hmm. And from that experience, she and him, like he saved her, so they went on this rampage, almost like a God Bless America one, but instead going off and just getting different serial killers. And they have some really cool ways of like killing them and all this stuff too. Just all the different ones they go through the decades. And through it, you almost find that like that Tom Waits' character was actually more of a normal person, but his wife was
really
psychopath.
into it. She was really into it.
She kind of did the thing where she went from being like somebody who was just a victim to now that she has almost become the same thing that they are. Where she really like it's not just she's killing them anymore. She is now like torturing to kill them.
And then like there's even a part where they come across like the Zodiac Killer, and you're thinking, is that really the Zodiac Killer, or is that just like a made up, you know what I mean? You're not really sure if that really is the Zodiac Killer. Because they'll say the name of the killer right before they kill him. And you see this old hippie-looking guy with all these rabbits hop around his front yard, and then Maggie comes up, she's like, get in the fucking house! She has like a machete and a knife. They literally stab these dudes' hands down into the table, light him on fire with gasoline, and then like Tom Waits' character, Zachariah, is like, no, Maggie, don't! He's at the point where I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
And then
she's gone too far.
And then like he's burnt to a crisp, and there's this great shot of the two of them sitting in his front yard. You see his burnt corpse in the window, and all these rabbits hopping all over the place. And then she just kind of cries, like, oh, well, we got nothing between each other anymore. She takes off her wedding ring, gives it to him, cries, and then leaves.
And then takes off in the car.
And then you see his big regret. I didn't notice this the first time in the movie for whatever reason. Then you realize it's like, oh, wait, no, I should have been with her, or I should have been helping her the whole time.
To stop her, yeah.
Because not stop her, because he realized that actually, because he was questioning, is this really, I think this is what happened. He wasn't sure if that really was the Zodiac Killer. And then he finds the room where you see all the newspaper clippings everywhere, and has the Zodiac sign spray painted into the wall. So it's like, oh, fuck, she was right the whole time. You know, so now he kind of lost it.
Yeah, but I think also it had something to do with the fact that he feels that, like, with her by herself, she might become this ultimate psychopath. Because technically he was just more like an Avenger. Mm-hmm. You know, he was like the Punisher.
Tom Waits is the Punisher.
Have you ever seen Tom Waits in concert before? Like a video or something like that?
I haven't.
One time he played, and this is before I even knew who he was. It was at the Bridge School benefit, and you know, as we're waiting for Paul McCartney to come out, you know, maybe Neil Young hadn't played yet, like Tom Waits comes out, and it was just like the weirdest music ever. It's like I didn't know
Angry pirate music almost.
Yeah, angry, scary Jewish pirate music. It was just like you couldn't even understand what he was saying. But it was kind of cool at the same time, but kind of weird and like couldn't even like I almost like the older I got, I was like I almost appreciated it a little bit more because it's just so fucking weird. When you're a kid, you're like that sounds fucking dumb. Like come on, do something. Like you fucking Paul McCartney's coming up. Don't fucking disgrace him like that.
I have him. We'll get back to the movie in a second. I have him. I went to the library and burned him onto my laptop, and I got it sitting on my iPod. I've listened to a little bit of a song, and I was just kind of like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's so weird. But I almost give him so much credit for making just weird ass shit.
I need to sit down and really listen to it. I gotta really just sit down, get a nice glass of whiskey, and just sit there and just really take it in and just really study it. I think that's kind of what his music is.
I should go back and listen to it because I don't really. Because other than that concert, that was like my only real experience.
He and Keith Richards, I know, are like best friends. They like to do stuff together. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so he tells the story. Marty's like, "Oh my god, yeah, I'm going to use that story." He says, "If you do use it, my only request is you put my number up at the end of the movie, asking her to call me." He's like, "Yes, I'll do that. I put my life on it." So, thank you. And then he leaves. Now, there's also another story. We'll probably get the side stories out of the way. Earlier, Marty tells the story about he wants to write one of the psychopaths in his movie is this Vietnamese guy dressed like a priest holding a snub-nosed revolver and has a hooker, and the hooker basically just he straps the hooker with dynamite and takes her to this convention with all these Vietnam veterans because this guy was a master killer back in the Vietnam War on the Viet Cong side, but his family...
the Americans came by and raped and pillaged his village, so he's out for revenge, which is like really, it's almost like a full movie on that guy
would be interesting.
Would be awesome. But then like the cool thing too is like so that's like kind of like the middle section of it because it starts off where it just explains who he is, then it goes into detail like what he's doing, and then like this almost towards the end of the movie, but you can almost say it anyways, is that this last kind of recording that Christopher Walken leaves, because they're all kind of writing the story at this point, and by having each person have their own kind of opinion in there, Sam Rockwell wants to turn into the super action picture. In between, Colin Farrell sort of wants, I want to, maybe there'll be some shooting, but it's more about these characters. And then you got Christopher Walken's like, you got to put emotion and heart and feel into it. Mm-hmm. And he leaves, and he's talking about the Vietnamese guy, and he does this great. It's almost like a 10-minute monologue, if that, maybe not even that long, but it's still, he goes on just kind of explaining how all these things should go, and how that, he goes in there, and this guy's got a little bit more to him. Like, he's over here in the U.S., he's trying to find him, and he gets to this point where he keeps hearing somebody saying, brother, no, you can't do this, as he's doing all these things, and then it cuts, this is almost like the short and sweet version of it, but it cuts from him blowing up this place to him doing it a completely different way, where he's like the protesting guy in the Rage Against the Machine.
Word verbatim.
Because that came out before then. But he's on there and he's going to burn himself in protest instead against the Americans.
Mm-hmm. And the score they play, because the score is pretty simple, but the score they play over that scene, and he says, brother, this won't help. Then he says, it might.
Yeah, that's it.
And just like that right there, that alone, it just kind of I'm not going to lie, that part's a little bit of a tearjerker. Right there.
It's like when someone's like, when we explain it, it's kind of just short and quick, but when you see Christopher Walken just doing it, and they got footage going over it, how it's going down, it is just a really well put scene in there.
And I just love the score the movie has. I mean, it's a very simple score, but it's very, just the score as the guy lights himself, and it's building, and then all of a sudden, when it suddenly comes to him covered in gasoline, it slows down, and it just has this very soft melody, kind of calming noise, and then right as he lights, and then it just kind of continues,
Yeah, no, it's great. And then I guess some of the other psychopaths, there's one about the preacher.
This is within not the actual story, but within the story they're telling. Right?
Yeah, this part for Colin Farrell's script. And then you have the preacher one.
And that was there's a Quaker, and his daughter was brutally murdered. So this guy went to jail, and I'm not sure if I already said this. The daughter who was brutally murdered was the daughter of a Quaker, and As the murder changed, the murder became a better person, then he got out of prison.
Like, it was like 25 years later. It's like some ridiculous, like, way later on, he gets out.
And then for 10 or 15 years, the Quaker is from a distance just haunting him, just looking at him, and just always there staring at him, not letting him forget.
And this murderer guy, you know, in the story, it's like, you know, he became a better man. And since he found God, he did all these things. He just wanted to become this simpleton person. He know he did wrong, but he's trying to make up for what he did. And yeah, and then for 10 years, no matter what, he's haunted by this Quaker man. He's just like, is always out there, out the window. Wherever he goes, he's just off there in the distance, following him like a ghost almost.
To remind him of what he did. And then, he got so religious, he knows there's the one commandment that if you kill yourself, you're guaranteed a spot in hell. So he knew the Quaker wasn't going there. So he looked out his window one day, pulled out a razor, slit his throat looking at the Quaker. And the Quaker did the exact same thing, looking him in the eye.
So he is following him
to hell,
which is like so badass.
And then,
like each one of these little stories could almost be their own movie, and it would totally work.
Yeah,
they work in like a 10-minute snippet, but they could also be a full-fledged movie, and it'd be just as enjoyable. That's what I think makes this movie kind of cool. Is there's so much like in it. It's only an hour and 50 minutes long, but there's a copious amount of stories being told.
So then, as Woody Harrelson's, those are all little stories within the movie. So as Woody Harrelson tracks down Billy and Marty and Hans, they all start to. He tracks it down to Hans's wife, who's in the cancer ward. And the unfortunate thing is, she came out all right. She beat breast cancer. Mm-hmm. Problem is, Woody Harrelson just found her, and they have this very nice conversation. Almost this kind of like, well, I don't want to kill her, but. She don't tell me where he is. I'm gonna have to kill her.
And too, it's like almost like he doesn't really. I think because he does the thing, it's like, oh well, she's black, so this is probably like some other lady. It's whoever I'm here for is probably not here. So she kind of does the thing like, oh yeah, she's in surgery. I can't remember what she says, but something like that. And so at first they just think that they're just having a regular conversation with just the other patient in the room, until he starts to realize, oh wait a second,
this is her.
This is her. And then he goes to kill her, and then that's when Hans comes in and finds her.
And then he just says, like, why don't you just, he's just like, you just tell me. That's all you gotta do is tell me. He's like, you can find him yourself, dumbass. Like, all right, goodbye. Just shoots her in the back of the head, and she's just embracing it. Because she sees him coming from the window, from the parking lot. So then Hans sees Woody Harrelson and like the one of his goons leaving the room. He says, "I'm gonna find that dog motherfucker, that dog napping motherfucker." And then Hans he's like, "Is this the guy?" He just walks past the room.
So it doesn't look like he's Hans.
Then he goes back and you just see him sitting there, not bawling, not crying, just sitting there, very just stoic, just very stone face next to the corpse of his wife. And this is the thing I like about the Hans character. He is very much a like he is passive, but he likes to mentally fuck with you. That's what he does. He likes to get back at you by making you reflect on your own things you've done wrong. Mm-hmm. And then he comes across him. He sits directly across from Woody Harrelson in the waiting room, looks at him. He's just like, oh, what's that thing you got there? He's like, it's a cravat. He says, oh, it's something of a bygone era. He's like, yeah, you could have it. He's like, I don't want it. Then
he's like, no, I insist.
Then he pulls it off. He has this slash mark across his neck, and just like Woody Harrelson's freaked out, like, I want your fucking cravat, man, and just walks out, just freaked out. And then like after he Hans is smiling, just kind of like, yeah. And as soon as he walks out of frame, he just gets back to this like, this motherfucker, and he's just putting it back on, like almost kind of like just very indignant, just like,
Yeah, exactly. No, because that's good. Because the whole time he's wearing this, and you always just kind of wonder what's underneath there.
I wasn't wearing. I just like, oh, he's just being an old-fashioned dude. But then you see, oh shit, and that's one of those things to flag. Like, wait a minute,
because his outfits change, but that never changes.
I mean, you just think back on the Quaker for a minute. You're like, oh, yeah. I'm just like, I wonder. And then later, as they're running, you find out Sam Rockwell's dating this girl apparently, and everyone's like, "Oh, you don't got a girlfriend? Who's this girlfriend?" And you find out it's actually it's the girl. It's the Woody Harrelson's girlfriend. The hitman at the very beginning of the movie. They were actually out to kill her because her name was Julia. Mm-hmm. Angela. Her name was Angela.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's what it was. And they were waiting there to kill her. And you find out that Sam Rockwell has been waiting. It's like this is what like Sam Rockwell has so many funny little lines in this movie as they're waiting there. He's like, turns out, that boy, your mob boss boyfriend, I kidnapped this fucking dog. Like, why the fuck would you kidnap his dog? And he says he's just got to be a decent person and just pay me the money. That's the thing to do. They just give the dog. They just give Patty her stuff. Only I'm not going to lock her in a closet for 10 years and make her rob a bank.
Well, then she goes to call Woody Harrelson, and then he has to end up killing her.
That's one of the things I do feel bad for her because she is like she's just kind of there, but it's one of those things like I do feel bad. It's literally his example because later in the movie, Christopher Walken makes a joke in Marty's script saying your woman characters are horrible. They're just there for a minute to look hot, and if maybe they might die later. They have no real.
He's like they can barely string a sentence together
before they die. And this is literally what happens. This girl, she's a Bond girl. She was the girl from Quantum of Solace.
Oh, that's right.
And I always have trouble pronouncing her name. It's Olga something. I always have trouble with her name. But she was the girl from Quantum of Solace. Not the one that got dropped in the oil.
Yeah, the other one.
But you just feel so bad for her because she's literally there in just basically in her bra and underwear, kind of like they're about to fuck. And then he says something. It's just like some of the shit Sam Rockwell says. He says something like...
Really, Sam Rockwell's the one who, he's almost like the best character of the entire movie. Like, I love everybody in it, but man, this is like one of his best roles he's ever been in.
He says something in the line of, I think one of my favorite lines he has. He says something kind of like, oh, I gotta get this fucking condom, this limp dick piece of shit. And he's like, look at that fucking thing. He's like, it's okay, baby, you don't need to use it. I trust you. He says like, no, it's not me I'm worried about. It's that mob boss you get. Who knows what shit that prick's giving you?
And then she gets up, she's all pissed. He's like, well, I didn't mean like AIDS.
Like chlamydia or something. And he just repeats it, eating Cheetos. He's all like, baby, I just meant like, chlamydia. I didn't mean AIDS or nothing like that. And as he's eating Cheetos, it's like the small things. I don't think even she even notices, but he's eating Cheetos, and then he's kind of just stroking her hair as he's eating
it like a dog.
Yeah. And she doesn't realize it. And that's when he drops the bombs. Yeah, I kidnapped the Shih Tzu. And I feel bad for her because, she is just kind of a crossfire. But I mean, it makes sense for his character because he is kind of a psycho. And she's not really meant to be that likable of a character. I mean, she probably don't deserve death. But she's, dating this Woody Harrelson character.
Yeah, so she can't be like super good, but she's not.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of works in context of the movie. So, and it also kind of the movie acknowledges it, saying like, yeah, the female characters in this script, they just die, and they can hardly string a sentence together. So, and it's just like, yeah, we know. So it's almost kind of like making fun of that kind of like stereotype by bringing it into the actual movie.
Yeah, it's like you got female, because that's how some action movies are. And like, you can say that a lot of times, unless it's a female action, character, generally if you're watching a movie that just has Dolph Lundgren in it, it's kind of like, well, I just assume I'm here to watch Dolph Lundgren kick ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they just kind of get out into the desert, and that's where they're trying to just hang out there and just trying to last, and they're just camping out there. Hans, Marty, as well as Billy. And that's where they kind of just play in their different ideas. They're just talking about Marty's script. Like, well, like, within that time, though, Hans also drops on them, that Quaker story? Because Marty said, earlier they mentioned offhand, like, that, like, Marty heard that story from somewhere else, but he's adapting it and changing a little bit. And then
he got it from Sam Rockwell.
Billy. Yeah, he got it from Billy. And then that's when Billy's all like, yeah, Billy's kind of like, oh shit, he knows I told his story. Because that's when, like, Hans pulls the scarf off. He's like, so, did you come up with that story all by yourself? Like, what the fuck? And then he's like, yeah, that's actually my story. That actually happened to me. And then Billy told that story to him without it actually being, then he didn't realize he was going to adapt it to his script. So then from there, they start bouncing ideas off. And this is probably one of the best parts of the movie, which is they're out there. Billy wants to say his version of the movie.
And I love this because then it plays it out.
It's like all the action of the movie kind of comes in this spot, but it's over the top. It just brings in all the characters. It's like, all right, so the Jack of Diamonds. I forgot to mention. We realize right when Billy kills the girl, Angela, that's where you realize, oh, wait, he's the Jack of Diamonds.
He leaves a card.
I mean, I kind of already figured it out. I'm not trying to sound like this guy. I kind of already saw it coming. But, I mean, it works for the movie. You got to drop that at some point,
Yeah.
So... is he's going on. He's like, okay, so the Jack of Diamonds is hanging out in this graveyard, and then all of a sudden the mob boss comes in. It's Woody Harrelson, and they're kind of self-editing. Like, why would he be there? He surely know he'd come up there like armed and double cross him. Like, you're right. So that's why he had guys hiding in the trees.
There's all these guys that come out of nowhere.
Yeah, Hans is there. He's like killing people left and right. The Jebediah and the old black lady are there. They're killing people. The Viet Cong guy's there with a fucking flamethrower. Just jumps in and just starts setting people on fire. And then that's where at some point he says I think one of the last people go is the old black lady. He says then she goes down, but the rabbit gets away. Because remember. The woman could die, all the animals live.
He's all serious about it, too.
And then, so it gets down just to Marty's there. He's just trying to survive. He's just trying to,
He's writing.
He's writing. You're writing because this is, inspiration for your story, okay? So you're just writing this shit down. It's okay. No one thinks you're a pussy, But that's when your ex-girlfriend comes in. It's I'm sorry. It's pouring rain all of a sudden. You see her tits through her shirt. And then he's I'm sorry I was such a fucking cunt. And then she gets fucking mowed down by a machine gun. And she's just standing there comically just getting shot up. And he just emphasizes, mow down. I'm talking fucking mow down. She's still standing there.
She's getting blasted to death.
Yeah. And it gets down to fucking the mob boss comes in. He says, pieces for fags. Then a sudden arrow goes through his neck. Then his fucking head blows up because of a fucking shotgun. Just this ridiculous, over-the-top action scene.
And this is the final shootout. Because the other kind of theme, and it's in actually all three of these movies, is that there's this final shootout. No matter what, there's always going to be the final shootout. And characters in the movies themselves are looking forward to this final shootout. Mm-hmm. Just like how in Bruges, Ralph Fiennes is looking forward to the final shootout. So are the characters in the Seven Psychopaths. Sam Rockwell really looking forward to this thing. Because his whole thing is, he's really the world's best friend almost. Because he, in a sense, sacrifices his life so that his buddy Marty can have a really good script.
Heck, he does inspiration. He's trying.
He does the Jack of Diamonds thing because he wanted to have an inspirational character out there in the real world for Marty to write from. He brings together all these other psychopaths, and he even stirs up with big mob boss guys too. Mm-hmm. You think about it, really is. It's just what has your friend done for you?
Willing to sacrifice his life and life of other people's just for his scripts.
Just for his buddy's script. And I like because he's just so sincere about it, too. Kind of he's like, yeah, Marty, I was doing it for you. Doing it for your script. I want you to have a great script. I want you to get out of that funk.
And he's like, you got to stop drinking. He's like, I'm not going to stop drinking. He's like, I'll help you with your script if you stop drinking. I'm okay. It's a deal. I didn't say it was a deal. I'm just saying, And then at some point, there's the, what was it? There's the part where he actually, they're driving by on the way out there. And this is actually this small little thing for me. They're playing a rendition, a weird, I never heard this version before, but a weird acoustic rendition of Dirty Dishes by Deer Tick. It works good. It's kind of when they go out into the desert and they drive by this one, big rock. So it's that's be a perfect place for the final shootout. I'm not saying we're going to have a final shootout, but if we were to have a final shootout, that'd be the perfect spot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he lets Woody Harrelson know where they are and blows up the car so they can't go nowhere.
Yeah.
And says, okay. And where's he go? The final shootout.
Yeah, this is the part too, is Christopher Walken, he decides to walk into town. Why is he exactly walking into town again?
He starts having doubts about heaven and about, I think his wife's name was Marla.
Yeah, because they take peyote and he goes out in the desert and he kind of feels like he spoke to his wife, but, obviously just a peyote thing. Mm-hmm. But then he decides to go into town, and that's when he runs into all of Woody Harrelson's gang guys.
Mm-hmm. And earlier, while they're in the desert, when you see him alone, he's just kind of talking to a microphone, to a tape recorder. You don't think much of it. And then that's where he comes across probably Woody Harrelson's right-hand man. And he says, all right, old man, I like you, so I don't want to shoot you, because he bumped into him several times. I don't want to shoot you, so you stay where you're at, okay? And then he just reaches into his pocket.
Because he looks over and he sees all these police officers right next door. Mm-hmm. So he knows that, he's an old man, his wife's dead, his friends are going to be next. So he makes the sacrifice. Once again, this is almost like in Bruges. It's funny when you think about these movies right together.
Also kind of like Gran Torino, this part.
Well, that too, but almost like you know how, what's his name in Bruges, Ken jumps out the window to warn his buddy. Colin Farrell's just the one getting his ass saved by all his buddies and all these movies. God, what would he do?
He was Bullseye. He was fucking the guy in SWAT. He was in Total Recall. He has to have his friends save him.
Yeah, his friends are always there to save
those movies.
But like, so he decides, he's like, I don't got anything else to do. So he reaches in, which looks like he's going for a gun. He pulls out the microphone and he gets shot to death. But the police come after him there. So the rest of those guys take off. So he knows no matter what, the cops are right behind him.
Mm-hmm. And then it even says something like on there, like for Marty, or like taped on there, I think, something like that. And
which this is one part that's always kind of weird in movies. Like later on, Colin Farrell comes up to his body, and it's like the police are like, whoa, back up. He's like, that's my friend. He's like, oh, okay. And he goes up, and then you just think that like a cop would be like, dude, that guy's fucking
punched over. I'm like, what's evidence? You know?
Well, that, and then secondly too, because you see this in other movies too, where they do the same thing, where they go like, oh, let me get by, and then all of a sudden they're down there and they take something from him. And it's like. You think the cops would be like, whoa, wait a second, what the fuck just happened there? He just took something from this. That's evidence all right there. You can't be that, but
at the same time, it works for
I mean, like, it's good because the whole point is, here's a tape recorder for Marty. This is so he can, finish a script. Everything's going towards a script. All these sacrifices people are making.
And then what ends up happening is they're kind of out there at this like, as Woody Harrelson's coming in, it's actually just kind of like this, it's actually kind of smart. You don't really think about it. It's just like, he has a gun drawn on him. He says like, all right, you stay right there. He says, okay, I'm right here. Then he shoots him. He's just like, what the fuck you doing? He's like, he's unarmed. And he says like, oh shit, he's really unarmed. Why is he unarmed? He says, he fucking told me to come unarmed. I didn't think he'd actually fucking do it. And that's when he has like a flare gun. He says like this, like Marty's like, I'm going to do this like the non-violent style. I'm going to take him back. I'm going to prove this can all be done without killing a single person. And then he's driving him back. It's just a quick little thing. He has a bottle of Jack, and he just drinks it, chugs it, and he's like, "Is he driving and drinking? That's fucking great,
Yeah, he's like, oh, that's good. That would be helpful.
And then as they go back, they come across like Woody Harrelson's goons, and you realize the flare gun. Sam Rockwell's like, oh, wait a minute, this is like something to signal off.
Because he's bringing them once again towards there because he doesn't want Marty to have to deal with that. I think it's a way because he's afraid that Marty's going to get killed by going out.
So he fires it off, and then this is one of those things where the whole passive thing comes into play. And all his goons come, and like, then Woody Harrelson says something to the lines of like, he says like, you didn't take a gun? You didn't take the fucking gun. He says, no, I don't believe in him. He's just like, it's a gun, not fucking Santa Claus, you stupid Mick. And then that's where the thing where it really comes into play. It's like, because Marty refused to kill him and offered to help him, he points a gun right at Marty, and he can't bring himself to kill him. He's like, well, this guy got me out of here. I'm still going to tell him to sell him a hostage, but I just can't kill him right now. So it's one of those things.
And then, as Sam Rockwell is tossing out all his guns, he forgets that he still had an extra flare round, and he comes out holding the dog with the flare gun to his head, and that's where you get the part where like nobody wants to kill the dog, but it's the ultimate hostage.
Yeah, he's like, I'll kill this fucking dog, and I love this dog. And that's where Marty, he actually just he sees the cops coming, and he kind of lets. Earlier that they referenced that Woody Harrelson's gun always jams. He's just like, your gun is jamming? Yeah, this is the final shootout, and your gun is jamming, And that's where the cops get there just in time to see him shoot Sam Rockwell.
So he knows that he can go to jail, and Marty can get away. Everything's working towards Marty's favor here.
Mm-hmm. That's when Marty comes across the tape player.
Listens to the Vietnamese story, the full version of it.
And that's where the movie basically almost ends. And we get this I always like that song. It's by the Stone Ponies, and it's like, I don't remember what the song is called, but you and I move to the beat of a different drum. That really nice song. And it just has, he has that script printed out. He's walking down the street and just kind of like upbeat mood. And then as he's walking down, he has the closing credits. And it looks like the film is like a little scratch, and stops, and then he gets a phone call late at night.
Mm-hmm. And it's Tom Waits is on the other line, and he's saying that like, Marty, you said that you'd put my number in at the end. I saw your film and it wasn't there, so I'm gonna come and I'm gonna fucking kill you. And I like it. See, Colin Farrell just looks and goes, yeah. He's like, you come Wednesday. I got nothing going on then. And then just in this conversation, he kind of goes, well, Wednesday doesn't really work for me. And then he's like, well, I'm free all next week or whatever he says. He's like, well, you know what? I guess I'll just have to call you back on that one. And it's sort of this change. It's like, since the plans just didn't work out, it was just this slight change of heart that he just said, you know what? Well, fuck it. Maybe I don't need it.
And he's not begging for his life. And then I think some people say it's kind of unclear if Marty's going to get killed or not. But I think it's pretty much she's going to be fine.
I think so too, but for the fact that, like, in just a movie kind of way, when he leaves, when you see Tom Waits walking away from the phone booth, I feel like that's the sign that said he walked away from that and just said, you know what? Whatever.
And he even had the rabbit. He even says to the rabbit, like, come on, let's go home.
Yeah, that right there, it's like, that to me is like, I call it like movie lines of saying that, like, that's over.
Yeah.
But, boom. That's the movie right there. All kinds of stuff. I guess we gotta hurry up. Well, I'm gonna go see a Cradle of Filth concert, which is, you know, more darkness and mayhem and comedy. But, you know, those are, well, as I said, it's two movies, one short, but 2 movies, probably some of our favorite movies of all time, I think. I really think that In Bruges is just a full-on amazing one. But I think Seven Psychopaths is technically right. It's right behind it. It is so close to being just as good.
I'll say this, even though I think, let me put it this way. In Bruges, I feel like I can watch that movie almost any time. But and love that movie. But Seven Psychopaths, it's almost kind of like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I like In Bruges more, but Seven Psychopaths kind of puts me in a happier mood for whatever reason. I don't really know what it means, because brighter colors, more vibrant. Maybe that's part of it, some of the small things. But no, they're just 2 full-on awesome movies that I love. And he has a brother named Jonathan Michael McDonagh, and apparently he's produced for his brother. And that brother, because that brother has a movie called The Guard, as well as a movie called The Calvary, both starring Brendan Gleeson, and they're also dark comedies. So
there's something to check out just to see if that, because you know, in a sense, that almost be like totally similar in tone. So it's almost like you got more of his movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I believe he produced The Guard, so I'd be interested in checking this dude out. He currently has a 3rd movie in production right now. I don't remember what it's called, but whatever this dude makes, I want to see.
Yeah, I'll be there. We'll drive a couple hours away just to go see the movies. That's how good they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, till then, check out oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, cartoons, music, and more. And if you want to see these movies and you haven't seen them, I'll put the little links underneath the description that lead to Amazon, so you can pick up In Bruges or Seven Psychopaths, which you can pick up for I think they're like $5 brand new. They're totally cheap. So, one way to support the podcast and check out some fucking amazing films. Till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Ryan Dunigan.
We'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.
Thanks for listening to the Old Man Orange podcast. Check out our website at oldmanorange.com for even more podcasts, cartoons, videos, music, and more. Send us an email at oldmanorangepodcast@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review us on iTunes, Podomatic, or any of the other fine sites we might be located on. If you want to help out even more, click on the Amazon or GameStop links on our webpage before you make any purchases there. It won't cost you a penny, but it sends us a little something our way. Thanks again, and tune in next week for more Old Man Orange Podcast.